Have you ever wondered what truly makes a woman irresistible to a man, not just in fleeting moments, but in a deep, lasting way? Is intimacy merely a physical act, or does it hold a much greater power, one that transcends passion and becomes an unspoken language between two souls? In today's video, we uncover a conversation between a wise grandmother and her curious granddaughter, one that will change the way you think about love, connection, and the power of giving pleasure. This is not just about what men desire, but about what a woman feels in her heart and body when she chooses to share herself in such an intimate way. The golden afternoon light filters through lace curtains, casting a glow on the wooden kitchen table where they sit, two generations exchanging wisdom over cups of freshly brewed tea. As the young woman hesitates, searching for the right words, her grandmother simply smiles, as if she already knows the question before it is even spoken. What unfolds next is a conversation that will challenge conventional ideas about intimacy, pleasure, and the sacred nature of love. You'll discover, heavy checkmark, the truth about what men really think when a woman expresses deep affection through intimacy. Heavy checkmark, the hidden emotional and psychological power a woman holds in moments of closeness. Heavy checkmark, why true intimacy is not about obligation, but about harmony, trust, and mutual fulfillment. Heavy checkmark, the surprising way a woman's own body responds when she gives freely, with love and sincerity. And most importantly, why embracing your own desires without shame is the key to deepening your connection and making love a truly transformative experience. Stay with us until the very end of this video, because this wisdom is unlike anything you've heard before. The lessons shared in this quiet conversation will open your mind, touch your heart, and leave you with a new understanding of what it really means to love and be loved. Are you ready to hear the truth? The kind of truth that only a woman who has lived, loved, and learned can share? Let's begin. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Now, let's get started. The golden afternoon light streamed through the lace curtains of her grandmother's tiny, well-loved kitchen, casting soft patterns on the wooden table where they sat. The air was filled with the gentle aroma of freshly brewed tea, the scent mingling with the comforting warmth of nostalgia. The granddaughter, her hands lightly clasped around her porcelain cup, watched her grandmother with admiration. This woman, whose years of experience had etched delicate lines across her face, each wrinkle a testament to a life fully lived. The elderly woman moved with slow, deliberate grace, pouring tea into 2 delicate cups, her fingers steady despite the weight of the years. The granddaughter felt a familiar sense of comfort in her presence, a kind of peace that could only be found in the company of someone who had seen it all: love, loss, devotion, regret. And today, she had come seeking wisdom, guidance for a question that had been stirring inside her heart. She hesitated for a moment before finally speaking, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "Grandmother, I've been thinking," she began, her eyes searching the older woman's face for any sign of judgment. "What do men think about women who enjoy pleasing their husbands intimately, especially when it comes to gestures of affection like oral contact? It's not something people talk about openly, but I know you always have the right words." Her grandmother's lips curved into a gentle, knowing smile, her deep, wise eyes reflecting a lifetime of understanding. She adjusted herself in her chair, folding her frail yet strong hands in her lap, preparing to speak not just from knowledge, but from the wisdom of experience. The light from the window bathed her in a golden glow, almost as if time itself was pausing to listen. "My dear," she said, her voice rich with warmth, each word deliberate, as though she was unwrapping a precious truth. "Love and intimacy have always been intricate, delicate territories. They are sacred, powerful, and deeply human. The act of giving pleasure, of sharing oneself in such a way, is not just a question of what men think, but of what a woman feels, deep inside her heart and soul." She let her words linger in the air for a moment, allowing their weight to settle between them. There is no doubt that many men see such gestures as a sign of deep affection, of trust, of devotion. Some believe it signifies a rare and special bond, one built not just on passion, but on a profound connection that goes beyond mere words. To be touched with such tenderness, to be received with such warmth, creates a kind of intimacy that many long for but rarely find. She took a slow sip of her tea before continuing. If you are still watching this video, and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. But my dear, the real question is not what men think. It is what you feel when you choose to give in this way. That is where the truth lies. When a woman offers her partner such pleasure, she is not merely giving, she is also receiving. She is experiencing the quiet power that comes from knowing she holds in her hands, or in this case, her mouth, the ability to bring forth raw, unfiltered sensation in the man she loves. It is an unspoken language, one that transcends words, one that binds two souls together in the most intimate of ways. The granddaughter sat in silence, the truth of her grandmother's words settling deep within her. Intimacy, the elderly woman continued, her voice softer now, almost as if she was speaking to her younger self, should never be about obligation, or about what a man expects or desires alone. It should be about what brings you joy, what makes you feel alive in the moment. If you take pleasure in giving pleasure, if you delight in watching the man you love surrender to the connection you share, then that is something to be embraced, not hidden. There is strength in that, beauty in that. The young woman felt a warmth bloom in her chest, not just from the tea, but from the quiet revelation that had just been shared. She had expected guidance, but what her grandmother had given her was something deeper, an understanding of herself, of her own desires, of the power that came with truly embracing her femininity without shame. The elderly woman reached across the table, her fingers gently resting atop her granddaughter's. "Love is not just about giving or receiving," she murmured. "It is about meeting in the middle, about creating something sacred between two souls. And when that is done with love, with sincerity, it becomes something timeless." The room was silent, save for the soft clinking of their teacups against their saucers. Outside, the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, as if nature itself was nodding in agreement to the wisdom that had just been passed down. In the end, my dear, intimacy is not just about the physical. It is an expression of love, of devotion, of an unspoken longing that binds two souls together, the grandmother said, her voice steady yet tender, like a gentle breeze rustling through the pages of a well-worn book filled with life's greatest lessons. She exhaled slowly, her wrinkled hands resting lightly on the rim of her teacup, the warmth of the drink seeping into her palms. She lifted the cup to her lips, took a slow sip, then set it back down carefully, her eyes drifting toward the window, where the afternoon sun bathed the small kitchen in a golden glow. The world outside moved on, birds flitted between branches, a faint breeze swayed the leaves, but within these walls, time felt as though it had paused, allowing space for an intimate exchange of wisdom, a moment suspended in the quiet magic of generational connection. The granddaughter sat motionless, her hands cupping the warmth of her own tea, her gaze fixed on her grandmother, waiting, listening. She had always known this woman to be wise, but never had she imagined that such delicate, unspoken aspects of womanhood could be discussed so openly, so fearlessly, with such understanding. Her grandmother looked at her with an expression of deep affection, her lips curving into a knowing smile. When you give yourself willingly, not out of duty or expectation, but from a place of joy and sincerity, your body, your very essence, responds in kind, she continued. There is something deeply profound about knowing that you have made your partner feel seen, cherished, and desired. And in return, my dear, you will feel a quiet fulfillment, one that is not just emotional, but physical as well. It is a warmth that spreads through you, a sense of closeness that cannot be replicated by mere words. The young woman let out a small breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She had always thought of physical intimacy as something given, something offered as a sign of affection, something that a woman did for a man. But as she listened, she began to understand. There was something much deeper beneath the surface, something she had never fully considered before. It's as if your body recognizes the beauty of the moment, the elderly woman continued, her voice gentle but unwavering. Women sometimes feel a kind of energy, a flow of warmth from deep within. It is not an empty or mechanical act, not something to be given thoughtlessly or with reluctance. No, my child, when a woman chooses to share herself in such a way, her body and spirit perceive it as something sacred, a powerful expression of love, of intimacy, of unspoken connection. She paused, allowing the words to settle like leaves floating down onto still water. Then, leaning slightly forward, her voice softened, yet carried an intensity that made the young woman hold her breath. And it is not just emotional, my dear, it is physical too. Have you ever noticed how, when we give from the heart, we too receive? There is a release, a lightness, as if a burden has been lifted, as if your own body exhales along with your partner's sighs of contentment. It is not only about satisfying him, but about finding joy in the act of giving, in the way his body responds to your touch, in the way you become attuned to each other's desires. The granddaughter remained silent, her fingers tightening around her cup. She had never thought about it in this way before, never considered the possibility that pleasure could be just as much about the giver as it was about the receiver. Her grandmother studied her, then gently placed a hand over hers, her fingers warm and slightly worn, but filled with a kind of energy that had not faded with time. Many men, of course, deeply appreciate such gestures, she admitted, her tone calm, matter of fact. They see it as an act of devotion, of trust, of connection. But that, my dear, is not what should concern you most. The old woman leaned back slightly, her fingers curling around the edge of her teacup as she let out a soft sigh. What truly matters is whether you find peace in it. Whether you feel it strengthens the connection, makes you feel closer, more in tune with the man you love. If it is done from a place of sincerity, if it brings you fulfillment, then it holds great value, not just for him, but for you as well. That is the essence of love. It is not merely in the act, but in the feeling it stirs within your own heart. The young woman felt something shift inside her. A realization. A quiet understanding. She had come seeking answers about men, about what they thought, how they felt. But what her grandmother had given her was something entirely different. She had given her a deeper truth, one that had nothing to do with external validation and everything to do with self-awareness, self-acceptance, and the intimate power of knowing one's own desires. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. She hesitated only a moment before finally speaking, her voice no longer uncertain, but filled with a newfound curiosity. So, you think it's good? If a woman feels comfortable with it? The elderly woman smiled, her eyes warm, full of a wisdom that had been earned through decades of love, heartbreak, devotion, and self-discovery. She reached out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her granddaughter's ear, a tender gesture that spoke of love, of understanding, of acceptance. "My dear," she said, her voice steady and full of quiet conviction, "yes. When it is done with love, with joy, and without shame, then it is not only good, it is beautiful." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The light from the setting sun cast long shadows across the small kitchen, painting the walls in hues of amber and rose, as if nature itself was nodding in agreement to the wisdom that had just been passed down. The granddaughter let out a slow breath, feeling something inside her settle, as if a missing piece had finally clicked into place. Her grandmother reached for her tea once more, her movements slow and graceful, the weight of the years present but never burdensome. She took a sip, then gave a small, knowing smile. "One day, my dear, you will understand this even more deeply than you do now. And when you do, you will know that intimacy, true intimacy, is not about what is expected of you. It is about what brings your heart peace." The young woman smiled, lifting her own cup to her lips, the warmth of the tea no longer just something physical, but something that now seemed to settle deep within her soul. "If you feel comfortable and truly happy doing it, then yes, my dear, of course it is good," the grandmother said with a gentle certainty, her voice like a soft lullaby carrying the weight of generations before her. "But never, never do it out of obligation. Do not allow yourself to feel bound by expectations, whether they come from your husband, from society, or even from your own self-imposed thoughts about what you should do. She reached for her teacup once more, her fingers tracing the delicate rim, as if each sip carried a story of its own. A woman's body is wise, she continued, her voice filled with the kind of knowing that comes only with years of experience, of love, of regret, of learning and unlearning. It speaks to her not in words, but in feelings, in instinct, in an unshakable knowing that is deeper than logic. If you truly enjoy pleasing your husband in that way, then do so freely, without hesitation, without shame. There is beauty in embracing pleasure, in sharing it, in allowing yourself to feel the joy of giving. The young woman exhaled, a slow breath that carried with it the weight of unspoken doubts she had held inside for too long. She had always believed that love required giving, but she was only now beginning to understand that giving should not come at the expense of her own comfort. But, my dear, her grandmother continued, her voice soft but firm, if you ever feel uncomfortable, if even the smallest part of you feels pressured, uncertain, or hesitant, then you must respect that feeling. You must listen to it, honor it. That, too, is wisdom, the ability to recognize when something does not feel right for you, and to stand by that truth, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. The granddaughter sighed, her shoulders relaxing as the tension melted away. She had come with doubts, seeking clarity, and now, as she listened to her grandmother's words, she felt something inside her shift. There was no longer guilt, no longer confusion, only understanding. She had always known that in a relationship, both partners' happiness mattered. But she had never fully realized that her own joy, her own comfort, her own desires mattered just as much. The key, my love, the elderly woman said, offering a warm smile, is harmony. When you enjoy it, when your heart is open and free, he will feel it. It is not only an act, not just a physical exchange. It is an energy, a connection. When you give yourself with affection, when you do something from a place of genuine love and comfort, both of you benefit from the moment. It becomes something sacred, something that draws you closer, something that makes the bond between you even stronger. She reached for her granddaughter's hand, her grip gentle but steady, filled with reassurance. But remember, my dear, she said, her voice full of quiet strength, the greatest power in intimacy is not in technique, not in the act itself, but in trust and mutual respect. It is not about what is expected of you. It is about what feels right to you. With those final words, their conversation drifted into silence, but the message remained engraved in the young woman's heart, as permanent as ink on the pages of her soul. She now understood that true intimacy was not about duty, nor about fulfilling expectations blindly. It was about balance, the delicate dance between giving and receiving, between desire and comfort, between connection and self-respect. And most importantly, she now understood that listening to her own body, her own heart, was not selfish. It was necessary. It was wisdom. It was the very foundation of love, both for another and for herself. The grandmother watched her granddaughter's expression shift, saw the quiet realization settle in her eyes, and she smiled knowingly. She had planted a seed of understanding, of self-awareness, of deep, unshakable truth. And as the golden afternoon light poured through the lace curtains, casting soft shadows across the room, the granddaughter felt a newfound sense of peace settle within her. She had come seeking answers, but what she had found was something far greater, an awakening of her own voice, a recognition of her own worth, and the quiet but powerful understanding that true intimacy would only ever flourish where there was both love and freedom. And there you have it, timeless wisdom from a woman who has lived, loved, and learned. This conversation wasn't just about intimacy, it was about understanding the true essence of connection, the power of giving and receiving love, and the importance of embracing one's own desires without guilt or hesitation. Now, I want to ask you, what have you learned from this discussion? Did something resonate deeply with you? Have you gained a new perspective on intimacy, love, or the way you express affection in your own relationships? Take a moment to reflect, and share one thing you've learned in the comments below. More importantly, tell us what you will bring into practice in your own life. Your insights might inspire someone else on their journey to deeper love and understanding. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you meaningful content that touches the heart and mind. Thank you for watching, and remember, true intimacy is not just about what you give, but about how it makes you feel. Until next time, take care and cherish the connections that matter most.